Check. Am I on? Good morning. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Well, it's good to see you all here this morning. In case you don't know me, my name is Derek. I'm one of the members of our team of elders here at NECC, and it is my assignment this morning to bring a word. Hopefully, it's a good word. I'm praying that it is a good word. When I was notified that, Pastor Sean wanted to take a break, and he asked if I would come up. So I was working, thinking I got my sermon together. Woke up yesterday morning, Spirit said, delete it. I'm like, I've been working way too hard, God. I've been doing all this research, digging through all of these books, trying to find books that I thought I lost, asking my daughters had they took my book. You want me to delete all that? Delete it. Can't I use delete it? So I get up yesterday morning and I deleted it. Cedric called, he sent me a message yesterday. He said, hey, you got slides? I wanted to say not anymore. But I was like, no slides. I'll get the scriptures to you when I get home. My wife and I were out. We can't go cruising and all those other things at the moment, but we get in the car and we just go for a ride. That's how we relax sometimes. Now, we regret it when we go to the gas station, but it was fun while we were doing it. So, today we are continuing in our series entitled Real Faith Live, where we're into the book of James. We're into the 3rd chapter, and James continues to challenge believers to have an active faith. Don't just talk about it, be about it. You want an active faith that'll produce real change within your heart and within your community. So we'll get into the text in a moment, but in this chapter we talk about taming the tongue. So if I hop up here and I say, I got time today, or Carl, no disrespect, but when we hear that, we already know you're about to disrespect me. Why you even say that? You're going to disrespect me. Or, hey, Reagan, did you hear about Holly? She we hear these things all the time. I'm sure, even though we're a small congregation, I'm sure somebody on the road this morning, coming to church, somebody cut you off. And boy, you probably said some stuff that you're not going to say right now. These things happen to us. We just have to try our best to get better at not letting it happen. So it's not a new concept, not a foreign concept. It's just things that we have to do as we grow and mature. So I have 3 questions for you this morning. What if we chose today to be slow to speak, quick to listen, and faithful to lift others with what we say? What if we speak life, declare truth, and reflect Christ in every conversation? What if we allow our tongue to become an instrument of praise, not a weapon of destruction? Imagine the healing that would flow. The peace that would grow, and the love that would show if we do those 3 things. I want to grow, flow, and show. Hopefully, you all want to do the same. I'm getting the evil eye, so I'm going to sit down. My wife going to get me. Because when I get home and say I'm tired, she'll be like, you should have sat your tail down. Don't be whining to me talking about how you tired and your leg hurt. So let's dive into the text. We're in James chapter 3, and we're going to go through verses 1 through 12. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. For we all stumble in many ways. And if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. So what's James saying here? First of all, he addresses those who do teach and those who want to teach. Let's go back to verse 1. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. Does that seem fair to anybody? It's fair to y'all. It ain't fair to me. I am not trying to get judged more harshly than anybody else. We've all been in school, or you might be in school. You've done what some of us may have skipped. I don't know what the case may be. But did you want to be graded more harshly than the person next to you for doing the same thing? And there's no curve here. God ain't gonna look at it and say, well, we're gonna give you a little bit of grace because we're gonna grade on this curve. There's no curve. It's either right or wrong. So we have to be careful. We have to be cognizant of what we say, and not only what we say up here, but how we live and how we act. When nobody's looking, or when we think nobody's looking, what are they seeing? What are they hearing? We live in this digital world, and everybody's got communication all kind of ways, cell phones. Your watch is a ring, and you talking through your watch, and, everything Bluetooth. So, how many people have been in a store or whatever, and you call your house, you call your spouse, you call somebody, a friend, and they, hello? Hello? You don't hear them because you butt dialed them. What are they listening to? Are you at the store acting a fool? Because the lady at the checkout line won't let you use the coupon you brought that you knew was expired from 2010, and you arguing with her about that 25 cents? Is that what they hear? When you think nobody's hearing you, those of you that are parents, grandparents, what are those kids hearing? When they're with you. My granddaughters are a great barometer for me. They love to hang out with their pawpaw. And even though sometimes I'd be like, man, I just want to take a nap. I don't, because there may come a day when they don't want to hang out with pawpaw. So I'm going to soak it up and enjoy it while I can. But we're riding, man, and Emery, you talk about backseat driving. That baby's 7, you'll swear she's 70. Pawpaw, that light was yellow. What that mean? You're supposed to stop. Somebody cut me off. And Monique will tell you, I'm quick to say, you tackhead. And so they in their car, Papa, what's a tackhead? I'm like, oh, Lord. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. That don't work with them. They, you're not going to brush me off, Papa. What's a tackhead? So I'm like, oh, my God. Now I got to try to explain this to them. So, we really have to be careful about what we say no matter where we are, not just when we're here on Sunday mornings. We can come here Sunday morning and everything is great and fine, and we put on our smiles and we're looking all good, but on the inside we might be raging. There's some things that are weighing on us very heavily. And we have to come in and try to stuff all of that down in order to bring a word, in order to make sure that we're encouraging everyone. Christian life is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was fun, everybody would do it. Cedric is good for telling us sin is fun. That's why people do it so much, because they want to have fun. They're not worried about salvation at the moment. That can wait. They're thinking that, I can deal with that piece later. I can give my life to Christ next year. This year is my year. Oh, I'm turning 25. I'm going to be turned up all year long. We can't do that because we're going to be judged more harshly. For those of you that don't know, I was in the military for quite a while, and I would tell people all the time that the military is one of the best leadership academies in the world, because you have to influence another person to lay down their life for you. And you have to depend on that person to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. That's a heavy weight. But the weight of somebody's salvation is much heavier. When Pastor Sean asked me about joining the elder team, I was like, man, God, I know you told me to support him no matter what, and I tell him all the time, whatever you need, just let me know. When he asked me that one, I wanted to backtrack. I was like, okay, God, I don't know. God, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. My wife was like, okay, you better listen. And I'm like, can you be quiet? I can just sit in the congregation and chill out. Let me go pick up the trash in the parking lot. I'm good. That'll be how I help. No. So there was that obedience, and that disobedience, because I didn't want to do it. It took a lot of prayer, a lot of soul searching, a lot of people praying for me that I didn't even know about. Say, hey, I knew that's where you were going. I didn't. And sometimes that's how God moves. Many years ago, he did tell me to preach. But I was like, so I didn't do it. Like, I ain't standing in front of them people telling them something, and then they go to hell, and it's my fault. I just didn't want to do it. But, being in the Army, like I said, having to train and having to teach these young men and young women how to lay your life down was very hard. And the one thing about it, and I'm glad we're into this message because I'm preaching to myself, one of the biggest things the military will teach you is how to cuss. If you did not know already, they gonna teach you every curse word imaginable and make up some too on the way. And that's how the communication goes. That's just how you talk. It was normal. It wasn't culture. It was just ordinary. The same way you say good morning, it might be 3 or 4 letter words, and nobody took offense to it, which also was astonishing. But you get this kid, 18, 19 years old, and you break them down verbally. I mean, you berate that kid break them all the way down to where they feel like nothing, and then you build them back up. And those that get it, when you build them up, they will run through walls for you. It's amazing to see. And if we did that same thing with God, imagine what we could do. You know, if I could run through a wall, because Sean said, hey, Gary, run through that wall. Most of y'all would say, you're crazy. You know, but when you have that relationship, when you've instilled that into that person, and they go do that. You know, so I did a survey yesterday, a little AI survey that said, I just wanted to know, as far as teaching, how many podcasts are on Bible teaching? It came back with over 92,000. That's a whole lot of people. That's a whole lot of bad information, along with some good. I'm not going to say everybody's bad, but how many people are out here listening to these podcasts and they're getting the wrong information, thinking that they're getting the right information? There's some that pop into my mind, but I don't want to give them the satisfaction of having me shout their name out and it being in YouTube forever. So we have to be careful with who we're listening to. Everything that sounds good isn't good. You know, so we have to be careful with that. After that search, I did another one. It said, how many Christian churches are in Pflugerville? How many of y'all think popped up? 13. Now, we all know it's 13 on this block. So that gives you an idea of how much you can trust AI. And in case you're wondering, our church was one of those 13, so that made me a little bit happy. It was actually number 3 on the list. And James, by no means on his statement and teaching, is by himself. Much of James's book is taken from the Sermon on the Mount. And if you want to copy anybody, copying Jesus is probably the best. I don't think you're going to go wrong copying. It's your brother, too. You know, you got to look up to him, even though you didn't believe him. But, you know, you can't go wrong. So let's look at Matthew 5:19. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So there's Jesus telling you, don't be a false teacher, basically. He's saying, you know, don't teach others to break the rules. You're breaking the rules and you're overlooking it. Don't teach other people to do the same thing. Don't just try to sweep it under the rug. Then we get into verses 2 through 12. And James talks about that little thing in our mouths that we cannot control. Talks about our tongue. And some of his examples are pretty mind-boggling when you think about them. And, you know, it stresses the importance of what we say. It also stresses the importance of what we don't say. Because a lot of times we see these people. I had a conversation with the elders earlier this week. A friend of mine from the military, her son, you know, reached out to me and a couple other guys that we were all friends together. Decades ago, that shows you how old I am. But he was like, hey, how come they don't talk about Joseph? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, when Jesus came back, you know, they mentioned Mary, but they don't talk about Joseph. So I'm like, why are you worried about that? Because he saw it on a podcast, and they were talking about Joseph. So I was like, okay, so me and another friend of mine, I call him Russian, his name is Winston. He's down in Fulshire, outside of Houston. We were on the phone with him a long time, trying to get him off of this thing about wondering what happened to Joseph. why is that so important? And he could never tell us why it was so important. He saw it on his podcast, and it stuck in his head that Joseph wasn't mentioned after Jesus came back and started his ministry. You know, and it took some doing. I still don't think he believes us, but, you know, and a lot of times we get caught up in things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, you know, and we get upset about things, and we want to argue, and we want to fight about it for no reason. We're wasting words. The word tells us about our idle words as well. So, again, we just have to be very careful. Our tongue is a barometer of who we are. So, like I said, it's easy to come here on Sunday morning, but how do we act when we walk outside the doors? University of Arizona, how they did this, I have no idea. But they did a survey, a study. Now, this is in 2007. It's estimated that we speak around 16,000 words per day. That's a whole lot of talking. And they said we spend 2 hours, roughly 2 hours of our day talking. What are we saying in those 2 hours? Now, they did an update, in case y'all wondering, because I sure wanted to know. Do women talk more than men? Yes, they do. So, they went back in February of this year, and what they found, and ladies, don't get mad at me, because most of y'all about to fall into this category, women between the ages of 25 and 64, which are the life stages of early and middle adulthood, spoke on average 4,000 more words than their male counterparts. Don't get mad at me. This is what popped up. I'm like, wow. So if you're wondering if your words really matter, let's back up to James chapter 1 and look at verse 26 for the answer to whether or not our words matter. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. So there you go. Your words do matter. What we say really does matter. So since my words matter, what kind of words should I speak? Let's go to 1 Peter 3 and 9. Do not repay evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, bless. For to this you were called, that you may obtain a blessing. So when people talk bad about you, bless you. You know, people gossiping about you, bless you. You know, when that tankhead cut me off, I got to say, bless you. It could be much worse. Why am I getting all riled up? He could have hit me. You know, could have hit somebody else. Could have caused a wreck, could have lost a life. You know, me being mad does no good. You know, and we do it all the time. Leaning on the horn. You know, get in the store and you go to the 10-item or less line, and the person in front of you got a whole shopping cart. And you just looking at the person at the register like, really? You really finna let this whole cart, this the 10-item line or less? Why are you over here in this line? You know, are you in that much of a rush that you can't wait? You can't go to another line? And then we have some folks, and I know some of y'all in here, you mad because it ain't no people to check you out. You got to self-check-out. Walmart ain't paying me. I don't know why. I got to do all of this. I'm going to go in their break room. They got me working. So, hey, what we got to watch what's popping out of our mouths. You know, let's back up to verse 2. For we all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body. Anybody in here perfect? I'm sure glad none of y'all said yes. So we know none of us are perfect. We know that we're going to stumble. How we pick ourselves up after that stumble is where our blessings come, is where we can see the evidence of a changed heart, is where our real faith is now alive. Because we don't stumble and stay there. When we stumble, we get up and we correct it. You know, we move on to the next thing, and we say, bless you to that person or persons or thing. People get mad and go off. Now, some of the stuff, you get up in the middle of the night, you got to go to the bathroom, you stub your little toe. Ooh, what's coming out your mouth when you do that? You cursing at an inanimate object. And you knew it was there before you got up out the bed. It ain't like it moved while you were sleeping. The foot of that bed been there for I don't know how long, but we still get in our own way. You know, so what we learn and what we come out of that is how we get closer to God. That's how we mature. Let's look at verses 3 through 7. And this is where some of the stuff just, you're like, okay, James, wow. You know, because he's talking about putting bits in the mouths of horses. That bit weighs 2 ounces. You got 1,000, maybe 2,000 pound horse, and you're making it do whatever you want it to do using that little 2 ounce or 2 pound bit, I should say. What's 2 ounces is what's inside our mouths, that tongue that's got us all going crazy, that's going to cause us to go to hell if we don't get it under control. But we can't control it. We have to learn to lean on God to do that. So we look at, he's talking about the ships and the rudder. A very small rudder got in that big giant ship. You know, a lot of you all have been on cruises. You're on a cruise ship and it's got 7, 8 levels and humongous, and there's a couple thousand people on this boat with you. I don't know if I'm getting on a boat that many folks, but y'all go head on. And the direction of that ship is guided by this very small rudder. You know, whether it goes left, goes right, or goes straight. Some of us are using our tongues like a rudder, and we're crashing in the chaos. We're hitting icebergs bigger than the Titanic because we're letting our tongue steer us in the wrong direction. You know, and sometimes we say things and we think we're saying the right thing, but we don't know. And this is where others have to point it out to us. Let's look at Matthew 16:23. And this is Jesus speaking. He says, "But he turned and said to Peter, 'Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man.'" I didn't ask our team to pull it up, but if we back up a little bit, look at verse 21, and it'll say that Jesus was explaining to his disciples that he was about to go be persecuted. He was about to be killed. And Peter, thinking he's doing the right thing, he's like, "Not you, Lord. No, surely not you." But Jesus, knowing the mission, he had to chastise him. Peter didn't realize what he was saying was wrong. And we do that a lot of times. We think we're saying the right things. You know, we'll see somebody, and unfortunately, especially done after people have lost a loved one. People thinking they're doing the right thing and say, "It's okay, baby. You'll get over it." You can't tell people when they're going to get over the death of a loved one. Your heart's in the right place, but what's coming out of your mouth is wrong. And this is where we have to learn to let God guide us. Let the Spirit direct what you need to say. And sometimes it's saying nothing in those types of situations. You give them a hug and you say, what do you need? You know, I've seen many people do that. It's like, oh, she just need to get over it. A good friend of ours, nobody can tell me different. I don't care what medical doctors said and the coroners and all the rest of them. That lady died from a broken heart. Her daughter passed away, and she could not cope. And people were telling her all the time, get over it. Church people, I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about people inside the church that called themselves her friend. You just need to get over it. Oh, she been dead 2 years. Get over it. This lady was heartbroken. And I truly believe that's what ended up taking her life, because she was so heartbroken over the loss of her daughter. When we look at verses 8 through 10, y'all with me? No, I meant to. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Our tongues are just insubordinate. It's a fire, a world of iniquity. In these days, it's not just with our vocal speech, it's also with what we text and what we do on social media. You know, back in the day, young folks, y'all don't know nothing about this because you've been on your parents' phone playing and everything's unchanged. How many of y'all remember nights and weekends? You couldn't be on your phone before 9 o'clock at night. You couldn't talk because you had to pay for those minutes. You know, if we had to pay for minutes a day, some of y'all would have a fit. But you got unlimited text. So let's flip it. You can't text until 9 o'clock. Now what you gonna do? You know, because a lot of people have replaced their speech using their vocal cords with thumbing the computer. Oh, I was talking to so-and-so. Well, what did they say? Did his voice sound strong? Well, I wasn't really talking. We was texting. Okay, so we got to wrap our minds around that concept. We get on social media, and on Sunday we're saying, oh, I went to Northeast, and oh, we had the worship team was awesome, and then, oh, we was glorifying God. And on Monday morning, you're talking about, I got to go into this blankety-blank job, and da-da-da. I'm like, wait, what? Them two don't go together. You know, we're blessing God, and then we're cursing people. You get in there, your manager come in there, and he says, well, such and such, I need you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you already got a stack of work to do. Like, but that's your work. Why am I doing your work? Well, because I'm the boss. You do what I say. Uh-oh. Is Jesus about to come out of you? Or is something else about to come out of you? You know, none of us want to hear, oh, you do what I said do. That's going to invoke a reaction. It's going to invoke an emotion. Most of the time, it's not going to be a good one. You know, we all see these things sometimes where people talk about man's at work, drive home, and then he's sitting in the driveway or he's sitting in front of the house because he don't want to go in the house because his house is chaos. I told people all the time, I ain't never had that problem. Any one of my bosses ever threatened me with going home, brother, bye. I love my house. You can't threaten me with going to my own house. Now, if you tell me I got to go to your house, that's a whole different story. But you threatening me to go home, bye, I'll see you later. Or maybe I won't, depend on how this is going to turn out for you. Let's look at verses 11 and 12. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. Anybody heard the term cussing Christian? That falls right into this category. It don't make sense. It shouldn't be so. Now, let me back up. We talked about it Wednesday night. You give your life over to Christ, he may take all of that away from you immediately. Some of it, he may want you to work on that. You might have to get rid of one word at a time. It depends on how God's moving within you and how much you are moving to get closer to him. But there never should be a thing as a cussing Christian. You know, it's just not something that should be the case. Anybody remember the movie Eddie Murphy did, 1,000 Words? Most don't. I was watching it the other day, and Monique came in there, and she's like, what are you looking at? I'm like, it's 1,000 words. She said, they got Eddie Murphy? I said, yeah. She said, I don't know this. I don't remember this movie. But anyway, in this movie, he's a literary agent. Did I say that right? Anyway, he's an agent that works for people that write books. And there's this so-called spiritual guru that is very popular. He's packing out stadiums and all the rest of this stuff, and he's written a book. Eddie Murphy's character has never read the book. He ain't even seen the book. But he wants to go sign this dude. So he goes and he tells him these lies and all the rest of this stuff. And there's a tree. Eddie Murphy gets connected to this tree. And every time he says a word, a leaf falls off the tree. So at first he don't believe it. He's like, I got my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby. And all these leaves start falling off the tree. So now he's scared. And he has to choose his words wisely. He has to choose his words carefully. And when the leaves fall off the tree dies. If a tree, we know, the tree can't produce leaves. It's a dead tree. So now he's connected. If the leaves fall off, the tree dies, he dies also. The gist of the movie is his heart is hardened by what his dad did when he was a kid. His father left him, and he never got over it. So once he starts to realize what's going on, again, he's choosing his words very carefully. Wife done left him because she think he don't want her and all, because he's not talking. He's trying to use sign language and use gestures to get his point across, and it's not working. So there's 3 leaves left on the tree, and with his last 3 words, he's at the cemetery with his father's gravesite, and he says, I forgive you. Those last 3 leaves fall off the tree. He falls out on the ground, and you assume that he's dead. Well, maybe he was, I don't know. It starts raining, and his phone rings, and you see his hand move. And then they cut to the tree. The leaves are back on the tree. Now it's blooming flowers, all because he let go of that thing that he was holding inside of him that was making him so bitter. How many of us have something inside of us today that's preventing us from getting closer to God? How many of us are holding things inside of us today that's preventing us from repairing a relationship? We have to be cognizant of these things. We have to ask God to search our hearts, let us know what's going on so that we can try to address it and ask him how to address it. So in James, he tells us no human being can tame the tongue. But what's impossible with man is possible with God. As long as we trust in him. Holly, you can come. So today, I don't want you to leave here feeling defeated. Leave determined. When we leave today, watch your mouth. But more importantly, wash your mouth in the word of God. Stay drenched in his word, and it'll help you. I really would I need y'all to listen. The power of life and death is not in our bank account. It's not in the bloodline. It's not in our background. It's right here in our tongues. That little thing in our mouth is steering the direction of our destiny. We already talked about it. Some of us are crashing. And we have to surrender our tongues to the King of Kings. Once we do that, we're good. You don't need a new relationship. You don't need a new job. You don't need to move. You need a new way to speak, a new language from a new heart that's controlled by the Holy Spirit. You know, like we said, James has already said we can't tame the tongue, and that's true. But God can take the same tongue that we use to curse and criticize and use it as something that blesses and builds. You know, if you want to see changes in your house, change how you speak in your house. You want to see changes, you want to have a revival in relationships, change how you speak into those relationships. You know, God's love and agenda starts within our mouths. And his agenda is loving. We all know that. You know, and when our hearts are aligned with heaven, the things that come out of our mouths will not be to criticize. There will not be destructive things. You know. So we're going to do that. I have a declaration I want you all to say with me. As soon as I get my page flipped over here. Y'all ready? Yes, loud voices, your outside voices. Lord, tame my tongue. Transform my talk. And train me to speak like you. All right, now y'all give God some praise, not just with your hands, but with your mouths. Thank you, sir. You got it.